Let's start number 1, 2026. Ford Mustang Boss 302. There is a name in American performance history that does not need an introduction. But what Ford just did with that name in 2026, that absolutely does. Because the all-new Ford Mustang Boss 302 did not just come back. It came back angrier, faster, smarter, and more beautiful than anything that has ever worn that badge before. And if you think you already know what this car is about, stay with us, because there is something about this machine that nobody is talking about yet. And by the time we are done here, you will understand exactly why this is the most significant Mustang to exist in over 50 years. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel where we go deeper than the press release and further than the spec sheet. We talk about what these cars actually mean, how they actually feel, and why some of them matter in ways that go far beyond horsepower numbers and lap times. Today is one of those days where everything we do on this channel exists for exactly this moment. So stay with us, because the details in this car deserve every second of your attention. Let us start with something that the original Boss 302 understood better than almost any car of its era: presence. Not speed on paper. Not a number on a dyno sheet. Pure, undeniable, stop you in your tracks presence. And the 2026 version understands that completely. The exterior of this car is extraordinary. Ford has taken the long, fastback silhouette that made the Mustang an icon and stretched it, sharpened it, and pulled it lower to the ground in a way that makes every previous generation look like it was still figuring things out. The front end is aggressive without being theatrical. The grille opening is wide and purposeful, finished in gloss black, with the running horse badge centered exactly where it has always been, but surrounded by a new face that means serious business. The LED headlight architecture uses a tri-arrow daytime running light signature that cuts through the air like something designed in a wind tunnel first and a design studio second. And that is because it was. The carbon fiber racing stripes run from the nose of the car all the way across the roofline in a deep charcoal tone that contrasts beautifully against the twister orange metallic paint. This color is not an accident. Ford Performance chose it deliberately, a nod to the original Boss 302 color palette from the early 1970s, updated for a generation that demands both nostalgia and modernity in the same breath. The result is a car that looks like it belongs to the past and the future simultaneously, which is one of the most difficult things any automotive designer can accomplish. The wheels are a statement entirely on their own. Massive multi-spoke forged alloys in a bright machined chrome finish are wrapped in Pirelli P0 performance tires, and the combination gives the car a stance that looks planted, even when it is standing completely still. The carbon fiber side skirts run the length of the door panels, and the rear haunches flare out just enough to communicate that the tires underneath are there for a reason. This is not a car that is pretending to be a track machine. It is one. Move to the rear, and the Boss 302 closes out its visual story with confidence. The tail lamp design is a full-width light bar running between deeply sculpted housings that glow with that unmistakable sequential amber turn signal, a signature so associated with the Mustang name that it needs no explanation. Below that, a carbon fiber rear diffuser frames 4 exhaust outlets arranged symmetrically, and the license plate reads simply, Boss 302 CP. Custom Performance. Those 2 letters mean something very specific about what lives under that hood, and we will get there in just a moment. Step inside the 2026 Boss 302, and the first word that comes to mind is intentional. Every single surface in this cabin was designed around one philosophy. The driver is the priority, and everything else serves that purpose. The dashboard is draped in full carbon fiber weave, deep and textured, catching light differently at every angle. The seats are deeply bolstered sport buckets upholstered in Alcantara, suede with contrast orange stitching that runs throughout the entire interior, matching the exterior color in a way that feels cohesive rather than overdone. The orange thread appears on the seat bolsters, the door panels, the center console, and even the floor mats. It is a thread, literally, that ties the entire identity of this car together from outside to inside. The steering wheel is flat-bottomed, wrapped in Alcantara with the running horse badge centered in gloss black. The paddle shifters behind it are solid metal, cold to the touch, and satisfying in a way that reminds you this is not a car you passively sit inside. It is one you actively wear. The digital instrument cluster is fully configurable and displays the Mustang galloping animation on startup, a small detail that sounds trivial until you see it for the first time and realize Ford Performance understands that emotion is as important as engineering. The center infotainment screen runs the Boss Performance Metric System, a dedicated performance display that shows real-time G-force readings, quarter-mile timing, lap times, track mapping, and G-tone data. This is not a system borrowed from the standard Mustang lineup. It was developed specifically for the Boss 302, and it gives the driver exactly the kind of information a serious enthusiast actually wants, without drowning them in data they did not ask for. Connectivity is full and modern: wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, over-the-air software updates, and a Ford Performance app integration that allows you to log and review your driving sessions from your phone after you leave the track. The system learns your driving preferences over time and adjusts throttle response mapping and shift points accordingly, a level of intelligence that would have seemed impossible in a Mustang just 5 years ago. Now let us talk about what actually makes this car a boss, because the name has always been earned rather than given, and the 2026 version earns it completely. The powertrain is a high-output naturally aspirated V8, no turbocharger, no forced induction, producing 800 horsepower. Ford Performance made a deliberate decision with this engine. In an era where every performance manufacturer is reaching for turbos and superchargers to inflate output numbers, the Boss 302 team chose to extract 800 horsepower from a naturally aspirated unit because they believe, and the result proves, that a naturally aspirated engine communicates with the driver in a way that forced induction simply cannot replicate. The throttle response is instant. The power delivery is linear and predictable right up to the red line. And the sound of this engine at full song approaching 7,000 RPM, is something that has to be experienced rather than described. The transmission is a close-ratio 6-speed manual with a short-throw shifter and a mechanical limited-slip differential at the rear. No dual clutch. No automatic option. The Boss 302 is a driver's car in the most absolute and uncompromising sense of that phrase. Pricing starts at approximately $72. 000 for the base Boss 302 configuration, with the fully equipped custom performance variant approaching $89. 000 depending on options selected through the Ford Performance Build program. The suspension setup is track-tuned from the factory. Adjustable dampers, a front strut tower brace, and a geometry calibrated for the kind of lateral grip that makes corner entry and mid-corner balance feel effortlessly communicative. Yet on the highway, the Boss 302 is entirely livable. The ride quality in its softest damper setting is firm but never harsh, and the cabin noise at cruising speed is well controlled enough that a long weekend drive does not feel like a physical ordeal. This car was built to go to the track on Saturday and drive home on Sunday without punishing you for doing both in the same weekend. The safety and driver assistance systems are comprehensive without being intrusive. Automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross-traffic alert, and lane departure warning are all present and all configurable, meaning you can dial them back in track mode without disabling them entirely when you return to public roads. The system is intelligent enough to detect when the car is operating on a closed circuit and adjust its intervention thresholds accordingly. Ford Performance calls this track intelligence. It is the kind of feature that sounds like a small detail until you realize how thoughtfully it was implemented. Who is the 2026 Ford Mustang Boss 302 really for? It is for the driver who has never stopped believing that a car should demand something from you. It is for the enthusiast who finds automatic transmissions convenient but ultimately unsatisfying. It is for the person who grew up hearing the Boss name spoken with reverence and now has the means and the desire to experience what that name truly means at its absolute best. In a market that is rapidly moving toward electrification, autonomous driving, and performance delivered through software rather than mechanical purity, the 2026 Ford Mustang Boss 302 stands as something rare and increasingly important. A car that insists on being driven rather than managed. It does not steer for you. It does not brake for you. It does not apologize for demanding your full attention and your full commitment every single time you turn the key. That is not a limitation. That is the point. The 2026 Ford Mustang Boss 302 is not a car that is trying to survive in the modern era. It is a car that is making an argument, loudly, beautifully, and at 800 horsepower, that the modern era still has room for something real, something raw, something that connects the person behind the wheel to the road beneath them in a way that no amount of software or artificial intelligence has yet managed to replicate. This is what the Boss name was always about, and 60 years after it first appeared, it has never meant more. If this video gave you something worth thinking about, hit that like button because it genuinely supports everything we do here. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews so you are here every time something like this demands to be covered. And drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to know whether you think the naturally aspirated V8 is the right call in 2026, or whether Ford should have gone a different direction. Either way, the conversation is worth having. Let's start number 2, Cadillac Eldorado Ghia. There is a name that once made European royalty stop and stare, a name that made Hollywood legends choose it over everything else money could buy, a name that defined what American luxury meant to the entire world for 3 decades. That name is Eldorado, and what Cadillac just did with it in 2026 is not a revival. It is not a tribute. It is a statement so loud, so confident, and so visually overwhelming that the luxury automotive world has not yet found the words to respond. Stay with us because there is a detail about this car, something in the way it was engineered and something in the way it was designed, that is going to completely change how you understand what a luxury grand tourer can be. And if you leave before we get there, you will have missed the most important part. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel built for people who want to understand cars at a level that goes far beyond what any press release will ever tell you. We have been doing this long enough to know when something genuinely matters, and the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia matters in a way that very few cars in recent memory have managed to achieve. So settle in, because this one deserves every moment of your attention. Let us start at the beginning. Let us start with what happens the first time you see this car in person, because that experience is impossible to fully prepare for. The 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia wears its proportions with the kind of confidence that only comes from a design team that refused to compromise. The body is long, genuinely long, in a way that recalls the grand American coupes of the late 1960s and early 1970s, but pulled and sculpted into something entirely contemporary. The roofline sits low and sweeps dramatically toward the rear, ending in a set of razor-edged tail fins that are unmistakably Eldorado in their inspiration, yet executed with a sharpness and precision that makes them feel born from a future rather than a past. This car wears its heritage openly, without apology and without nostalgia. It does not look backward. It simply knows where it came from. The front fascia is commanding in a way that few vehicles at any price point manage to achieve. The vertical grille opening is tall, wide, and finished in bright chrome with fine vertical bars that catch light differently at every angle. The Cadillac crest sits centered above the grille, flanked by a second crest positioned prominently on the hood. A dual badge treatment that communicates the exclusive Ghia designation without needing to shout about it. The LED headlight units run in sharp horizontal bars on either side of the grille, positioned low and wide to give the front end a face that is simultaneously aristocratic and aggressive. Below all of this sits a carbon fiber front splitter that grounds the car visually and aerodynamically, reminding you that despite the size and the luxury of this machine, it was never intended to be merely decorative. The hood is a study in drama. Dual functional hood scoops sit centered along the hood line, and depending on the variant, that hood is finished in exposed carbon fiber weave, the kind of material you would expect on a racing prototype rather than a luxury grand tourer. It is one of the details that sets this car apart from everything else in its price bracket. And it is a detail that communicates something very clearly about the engineering philosophy behind the Eldorado Ghia. This car was not built to be comfortable with compromise. From the side, the Eldorado Ghia presents a silhouette that will be studied in automotive design schools for years. The body drops low, the wide fenders flare generously over the wheels, and the surface between them is taut, clean, and almost entirely free of unnecessary creases. The Cadillac Eldorado script appears on the upper rear quarter panel in polished chrome lettering, subtle, refined, and absolutely correct for a car of this stature. The wheel arches accommodate one of the most distinctive wheel choices seen on any modern luxury vehicle. Large diameter wire spoke, wheels finished in bright chrome, a direct reference to the classic Eldorado wheel heritage, yet sized and profiled for the demands of a modern performance suspension. They are spectacular. On certain variants, the wire spoke design gives way to a more contemporary multi-spoke forged alloy. But in either configuration, the wheels are clearly the work of people who understood that the right wheel can define the character of an entire vehicle. The rear of the 2026 Eldorado Ghia closes the visual story with authority. The tail fin tips carry circular red lamp housings that reference the jet-age design language of the original Eldorado generations, now executed in LED with a brightness and clarity that makes them unmistakable at any distance. The Cadillac crest sits centered between them on the deck lid, and below it the license plate reads simply Eldorado, with the dates 1959 to 1980 engraved beneath, honoring the original production run of this legendary nameplate. The carbon fiber rear diffuser below frames dual-centered exhaust outlets that are positioned with an elegance that most performance cars fail to achieve. Everything here is deliberate. Everything has meaning. Step inside, and the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia introduces you to a cabin that will recalibrate your expectations of what American luxury can feel like. The dashboard is executed almost entirely in exposed carbon fiber, deep, rich, textured panels that run from the driver's door across the full width of the car to the passenger side, where a discreet Eldorado prototype badge sits as a reminder that what you are looking at represents the leading edge of what Cadillac's design and engineering teams are capable of. The carbon fiber is not cold or clinical here. It is warm in the way that only the finest materials can be when they are deployed with genuine intent rather than mere fashion. The center of the dashboard is anchored by a wide landscape-oriented infotainment display that handles navigation, media, connectivity, and vehicle settings in a layout that is immediately intuitive. The digital instrument cluster to the left of the steering wheel is fully configurable and communicates speed, power output, and driving mode information with a graphic clarity that never feels overwhelming. Ambient lighting runs along the base of the dashboard and through the door panels in a deep red accent, a color that runs throughout the interior as a deliberate design thread, appearing in the air vent surrounds, the center console lighting, the door inlay strips, and the stitching on the seats. It is cohesive, considered, and genuinely beautiful. The steering wheel is wrapped in premium leather, with the Cadillac crest centered in chrome. The rotary drive mode selector sits in the center console as a precision machine dial, the kind of control that rewards the sense of touch as much as the sense of sight. The seats are broad, deeply cushioned, and trimmed in what appears to be a combination of full-grain leather and soft micro-suede, with contrast stitching that follows the contours of each seat in long, elegant lines. Rear passenger space is generous for a coupe of this length, another nod to the original Eldorado's identity as a car that was as comfortable with a chauffeur as it was with an enthusiast behind the wheel. The technology woven through this cabin is comprehensive without being intrusive. Wireless connectivity, over-the-air software updates, full voice command integration, and an AI-assisted driver profile system that learns and adapts to individual preferences across every major vehicle system, from suspension damping to climate control to infotainment layout. The system does not require training. It observes, it learns, and it adjusts. After a week with this car, it will know your preferences better than most vehicles will after a year of daily driving. Now let us address what lives beneath that dramatic carbon fiber hood, because the performance story of the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia is as compelling as everything you have seen so far. The powertrain is a supercharged V8 producing 750 horsepower, paired with an electric motor system that adds an additional layer of instant torque delivery at low speeds and during overtaking maneuvers. Total combined system output sits at approximately 900 horsepower, a figure that is genuinely extraordinary for a vehicle that also rides with the composure and refinement of a world-class grand tourer. The suspension is a fully adaptive air system with electromagnetic damping, and the calibration is so sophisticated that the car transitions between ride modes with a smoothness that makes the change feel like a shift in atmosphere rather than a mechanical adjustment. Pricing for the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia begins at approximately $185,000 for the standard configuration, with the fully equipped Ghia prototype specification approaching $230. 00 depending on personalization selections made through Cadillac's bespoke commissioning program. This is not a car that is trying to compete on value. It is a car that is competing on significance, and in that contest, it is without a genuine rival in the American market. The driver assistance and safety systems are the most advanced Cadillac has ever offered. Enhanced Super Cruise hands-free highway driving capability, active lane centering, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, rear cross-traffic alert, and a 360-degree surround view camera system that makes maneuvering a vehicle of this size feel effortless. These systems are present and reliable without ever feeling like they are replacing the driver. They feel like intelligent support rather than unwanted intervention. Who is the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia for? It is for the person who has owned the finest European Grand Tours and found them technically impressive but emotionally distant. It is for the collector who understands that the Eldorado name represents something irreplaceable in automotive history and wants to own the chapter that proves it still has something to say. It is for the driver who wants to arrive anywhere in the world and have the car beneath them tell a story that no other vehicle on the road can tell. In a market where luxury has become increasingly homogeneous, where the same design language and the same technology platforms appear across brand after brand, the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia is a car that refuses to be anonymous. It is specific, it is intentional. It is American luxury operating at a frequency that has not been heard since the great Eldorado generations of the 1960s and 70s, but translated entirely into the language of 2026. This is not a car looking back at what Cadillac was. This is a car making an argument for what Cadillac becomes. And based on everything this machine represents, the design, the engineering, the 900 combined horsepower, the carbon fiber, the wire wheels, the tail fins, and the quiet confidence of a nameplate that has waited long enough. That argument is one of the most convincing this industry has produced in a very long time. If this video gave you a deeper appreciation for what the Eldorado name means and what this car has done to honor it, hit the like button because it genuinely helps this channel keep covering the vehicles that deserve this kind of attention. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews so you never miss a reveal that matters. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know whether you think the 2026 Cadillac Eldorado Ghia is the most important American luxury car of this decade, or whether something else has earned that title. The conversation is worth having. Let's start number 3, Buick HP 300. Nobody asked Buick to do something like this. Nobody gave them permission to take one of the most romantically designed concept cars in American automotive history, rebuild it from the ground up with 21st century engineering, wrap it in a color that stops traffic from 3 blocks away, and then drop it into 2026 like the last 70 years never happened. But that is exactly what they did. And what you are about to witness with the 2026 Buick XP 300 is not a revival, not a reinterpretation, and not a tribute. It is a full-throated declaration that one of America's oldest and most underestimated automotive names still has more to say than anyone gave it credit for. Stay with us, because there is one detail about this machine that the automotive press has almost entirely missed. And by the time we get there, you will understand why this car is far more significant than it first appears. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel where we go beyond the surface, past the marketing language, and deep into what makes a car genuinely matter. We have covered vehicles at every price point and every performance level, and we know the difference between a car that looks important and a car that actually is. Today, we are talking about one that is both. Let us start with something that requires no technical knowledge whatsoever to appreciate. The presence of the 2026 Buick XP 300, when you see it in person, is simply unlike anything else currently available in the American market. And that is not a casual statement. That is an objective observation, from people who have stood in front of a great many remarkable automobiles over many years of doing exactly this. The body is finished in a deep, saturated copper-orange metallic that shifts and deepens depending on the angle of the light falling on it. In direct sunlight it burns, in the shade it smolders. It is not a color chosen for market research or demographic targeting. It is a color chosen because the original 1951 Buick XP 300 concept wore a version of it, and because any other choice would have felt dishonest to what this car is trying to say. The paint is flawless in application, and the surfaces it covers are some of the most beautifully resolved bodywork seen on an American production vehicle in decades. The front end of the 2026 XP 300 references the original concept's famous oval grille opening with a chrome surround that wraps around a wide vertical bar grille finished in gloss black. The Buick Tri-Shield badge sits centered above the grille on the hood, and the round headlight housings on either side carry full LED rings with a brightness and clarity that feels entirely contemporary while referencing the circular lamp design of the original car in a way that is immediately recognizable. The front splitter below is finished in carbon fiber, and the overall impression of the front fascia is one of restrained drama. A car that does not need to shout because its proportions do the communicating for it. From the side, the XP 300 presents a silhouette that is genuinely breathtaking. The roofline sweeps low and clean in a long fastback arc that ends just above the tail. The greenhouse is small and intimate, and the bodyside surface between the front and rear wheel arches is largely uninterrupted. A panel of pure, unbroken orange that serves as a canvas for the engraved Buick XP 300 script, and the intricate decorative panel detailing that runs along the lower door in a pattern referencing mid-century American luxury design motifs. It is a surface treatment that communicates craftsmanship rather than manufacturing, and it is one of the details that elevates this car above anything that could be described as mass production. The chrome trim pieces that frame the windows and define the body edges are polished to a standard that most modern vehicles have simply abandoned, and their presence here feels both nostalgic and necessary. The wheels are multi-spoke machined alloys with a bright chrome finish, sized and profiled to sit flush with the widened rear fenders, in a way that looks like the car was designed around them, rather than fitted with them afterward. The brake calipers behind them are finished in a vivid red that you catch in glimpses through the spokes, a small detail that communicates performance intent without requiring any technical explanation. The ride height is low, aggressively low, and the carbon fiber side skirts that run beneath the door sills ensure that the car presents a completely cohesive visual story from any angle. The rear of the 2026 XP 300 closes the design narrative with exceptional confidence. Two wide oval tail lamp housings sit on either side of the deck lid. Finished in chrome, surrounds that mirror the headlight treatment at the front, and they glow in a deep red that is simultaneously modern in technology and classic in form. The Buick badge sits centered between them, and the Buick XP 300 script runs across the deck lid in the same polished chrome lettering seen on the side of the car. Below all of this, a wide carbon fiber rear diffuser frames a quad exhaust arrangement, 2 outlets on each side, that is positioned with a symmetry and visual weight that communicates everything you need to know about what is happening beneath the body without requiring a single word of explanation. Step inside, and the contrast with the exterior drama is immediately striking in the best possible way. The cabin of the 2026 Buick XP 300 is warm, enveloping, and deeply luxurious in a manner that recalls the great American grand tours of the post-war era, while operating entirely in the language of the present day. Every surface that your eye lands on is covered in cognac tan leather, deep, rich, and quilted in a diamond pattern across the seats, the door panels, and the upper dashboard surfaces. The stitching is precise and runs in contrasting lines that follow the contours of each panel. The seats themselves carry XP 300 embossing on the seatbacks, a small detail that functions as a signature rather than a badge. The dashboard architecture is centered around a panoramic curved display unit that stretches across nearly the full width of the cabin, in a single sweeping arc. On the left side of this display, the digital instrument cluster presents speed, power output, and driving mode information with a graphical clarity that never overwhelms. In the center, the infotainment display greets the driver with a welcome Buick XP 300 screen on startup, rendered in gold lettering against a dark background, before transitioning to navigation, media, and vehicle systems management. On the right side of the main display, a secondary information panel provides additional vehicle data and personalization controls. The entire unit is housed in a chrome-finished bezel that curves with the dashboard surface, and the result is a cockpit that feels simultaneously futuristic and deeply connected to the lounge-like interiors that made post-war American luxury cars genuinely special to spend time inside. The center console houses a secondary touchscreen for climate and drive mode controls, and above it sits the gear selector, a crystal-clear, faceted knob on a chrome stalk that catches every photon of cabin light and disperses it in directions that make you stop and look at it every single time you reach for it. It is one of the most visually extraordinary gear selectors seen on any production vehicle at any price point, and it speaks volumes about the level of attention to detail that went into every tactile experience in this cabin. The ambient lighting runs along the base of the dashboard and through the door panel inserts in a cool blue tone that transitions the warmth of the leather and chrome into something that feels contemporary without compromising the overall sense of luxury and timelessness that defines this interior. Now let us discuss performance, because the 2026 Buick XP 300 was never intended to be merely beautiful. The powertrain is a supercharged V8 producing 650 horsepower, paired with a mild hybrid assist system that adds an additional layer of torque responsiveness at low engine speeds and during highway overtaking. The combined output gives the XP 300 a character that is entirely different from the turbocharged performance cars that dominate this segment. The power builds in a linear, predictable manner that rewards the driver for engaging with the car rather than simply managing it. The suspension is fully adaptive with electromagnetic damping, and the calibration range is wide enough that the XP 300 can be genuinely comfortable on a long cross-country drive while also being genuinely capable on a demanding mountain road without any contradiction between those two personalities. Pricing for the 2026 Buick XP 300 begins at approximately $125,000 for the standard supercharged configuration, with the fully specified XP 300 Grand Edition approaching $155,000, including the personalization options available through Buick's bespoke commissioning program. For a vehicle that offers this level of design originality, this quality of interior execution, and this breadth of driving capability, that pricing positions the XP 300 in a segment where it has no direct American rival and competes emotionally, rather than functionally, with the finest European Grand Tourers. The driver assistance systems are comprehensive. Adaptive cruise with lane centering, forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic detection, and a 360-degree camera system that makes managing the XP 300's length and width in tight environments entirely stress-free. These systems are calibrated to support, rather than replace the driver, and in their least intrusive settings, they become background presence rather than active intervention. Who is the 2026 Buick XP 300 genuinely for? It is for the collector who understands that the most interesting cars in any collection are the ones with a story worth telling. It is for the driver who has grown tired of performance vehicles that are technically impressive but emotionally empty. It is for anyone who believes that American automotive design, at its very best, has always had the capacity to produce something that no other country's industry could replicate. Something warm, dramatic, confident, and utterly original. The 2026 Buick XP 300 does not compete with the past. It does not apologize for referencing it. It takes a design language that was ahead of its time in 1951 and demonstrates in 2026 that it was right all along. The round headlights, the oval grille, the sweeping roofline, the chrome trim, the cognac leather, all of it feels inevitable rather than nostalgic. It feels like the car that the XP 300 concept was always trying to become. And it has simply taken 75 years to develop the engineering to match the ambition of the original design. That is not a limitation. That is a remarkable story, And the 2026 Buick XP 300 tells it better than any vehicle we have encountered in recent memory. If this video gave you a deeper appreciation for what Buick just accomplished with this machine, hit that like button, because it genuinely matters to what we do here. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews so you are present every time something this significant deserves this kind of coverage. And drop your thoughts below. We want to know whether you think the 2026 Buick XP 300 is the most compelling American luxury coupe of this decade, or whether something else has earned that distinction in your eyes. We read everything, and the conversation is always worth having. Let's start number 4, Chevrolet Corvette Zora. For 70 years, the Corvette name has meant one thing above everything else: that America could build a sports car capable of humbling the finest machines Europe had to offer, at a fraction of the price, and without ever apologizing for where it came from. But what Chevrolet just did with the 2026 Corvette Zora is something altogether different from anything that name has ever represented before. This is not a faster Corvette. This is not a more powerful Corvette. This is a Corvette that has crossed a threshold into a category that most American performance cars have never reached, and the number at the top of its specification sheet is so far beyond what anyone expected that the European supercar industry is genuinely paying attention. Stay with us, because there is one aspect of this car, in the way it delivers its power and in the technology that manages it, that changes everything you thought you understood about what an American performance car is capable of in 2026. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, the channel dedicated to going deeper than the headline numbers and further than the first drive impressions. We cover cars the way they deserve to be covered, with the seriousness, the knowledge, and the genuine passion that separates real automotive understanding from surface-level enthusiasm. And today we are in the presence of something that absolutely demands that level of attention. The name Zora carries enormous weight within Corvette history. Zora Arkus Duntov was the engineer who transformed the original Corvette from a stylish curiosity into a genuine performance machine. He is the reason the Corvette became what it became. Naming the most extreme Corvette ever produced after him is not a marketing decision. It is an acknowledgement of a debt, and the 2026 Corvette Zora pays that debt in full. Let us begin where every great performance car begins, with what it looks like standing still. Because a car that is going to claim the title of the most extreme, road-legal Corvette ever built had better look the part before it ever starts its engine. The body of the 2026 Zora is finished in a striking Accelerate yellow metallic, a color that has been part of Corvette's heritage palette for decades, but has never been worn by a car that looks quite like this. It is not a gentle yellow. It is urgent, saturated, and entirely confident in its own visibility. Against the extensive use of exposed carbon fiber across the hood, the roof panel, the front splitter, and the side skirts and diffuser elements, that yellow creates a visual tension that is genuinely unlike anything currently available in the performance car market. The contrast between the warm metallic paint and the deep matte weave of the carbon fiber is one of the most visually compelling combinations seen on any production car at any price point this decade. The front fascia of the Zora is wide, low, and aerodynamically purposeful in a way that makes the standard Corvette look restrained by comparison. The triple-element LED headlight clusters sit deep within sculpted housings that give the front end a face of concentrated aggression. The Corvette Crossed Flags badge appears twice on the front of this car, once centered on the hood above the grille and again in the center of the lower grille opening. A detail that communicates the significance of this model within the Corvette lineage without requiring any additional explanation. The front splitter is a structural carbon fiber piece, not an aesthetic addition, and it works in concert with the underbody aerodynamics and the active rear wing to generate genuine downforce at speed. This is not a car that is pretending to be a track machine. It was developed on real circuits with real aerodynamic targets, and the body reflects every one of those requirements. The roofline is low and taut. The greenhouse is minimal, and the transition from the rear of the cabin to the engine cover behind the seats flows in a single continuous surface that is purely mid-engine in its proportions. Mid-engine being the configuration that the C8 generation introduced to the Corvette world, and that the Zora takes to its absolute extreme. The rear haunches are the widest in Corvette history, accommodating wheel and tire combinations of a scale that communicates genuine performance intent. The multi-spoke dark alloy wheels with machined carbon fiber centers are among the most visually sophisticated wheel designs seen on any American production car, and the yellow brake calipers visible through the spokes match the body color in a detail that is simultaneously subtle and completely deliberate. The rear of the 2026 Corvette Zora is where the aerodynamic story reaches its conclusion. The full-width LED tail lamp treatment carries the Corvette's signature graphics in a form sharper and more defined than any previous generation. And the Corvette script sits above the license plate, alongside the crossed flags badge centered on the deck lid. Below all of this, the carbon fiber rear diffuser is an aggressive, multi-element piece that exits into a quad exhaust arrangement, 2 outlets on each side, positioned within the diffuser structure with a precision that communicates the engineering seriousness of everything that is happening beneath this body. Step inside the 2026 Corvette Zora and the experience is an immediate recalibration. The cabin is dark, focused, and built entirely around the driver in a way that leaves no ambiguity about the purpose of this machine. The surfaces are almost entirely carbon fiber, the dashboard facing, the center console structure, the door inner panels, and the depth and quality of the weave pattern is exceptional. It does not feel like a Corvette interior that has been upgraded. It feels like an interior that was designed for this car and only this car from the very first day. The seats are deeply bolstered, racing-inspired buckets trimmed in black Alcantara and leather, with yellow contrast stitching running throughout. Appearing on the seat bolsters, the steering wheel rim, the door panel inserts, and the dashboard accent lines. It is a thread of color that ties the entire interior identity to the exterior and creates a cabin that feels as considered and cohesive as anything produced by the European supercar manufacturers. This car is now positioned to compete with directly. The steering wheel is flat-bottomed Alcantara with the crossed flags badge, centered in a design that has been refined from the standard C8 wheel into something with more structural drama. The yellow accent stripe runs across the top of the rim, a single band of color that your hands frame every time you reach for the wheel. Behind it, the fully digital instrument cluster delivers speed, gear position, power output, lap time, and performance mode information in a graphic layout that is immediately legible even at high engine loads and speeds. To the right of the steering wheel column, the main infotainment display launches with the Zora name displayed in large lettering on startup, a greeting that functions as a reminder of what you are sitting inside before you have even moved. The technology ecosystem of the 2026 Corvette Zora is as comprehensive as it is intuitive. The performance data recorder is integrated into the system from the factory, logging video and telemetry data simultaneously across every drive. The driving mode selector spans a range from a genuinely manageable everyday touring setting through to a full track configuration that removes virtually every electronic limitation and hands the car back to the driver with a completeness that will reward the skilled and educate the developing. Over-the-air updates keep every system current, and the AI-assisted driving profile system learns individual preferences across throttle mapping, steering weight, and regenerative characteristics over time. And now the performance. Because this is the part that the 2026 Corvette Zora was built to define. The powertrain combines a flat plane crank naturally aspirated V8 with a dual electric motor system. One motor on the front axle and one integrated with the rear transmission, creating a combined output of 1,064 horsepower. That number is not chosen arbitrarily. It is chosen because it represents the point at which the Zora crosses from being a very fast sports car into being a genuine hypercar, a vehicle that competes not with other sports cars but with the fastest road-legal machines produced by any manufacturer anywhere in the world, at a price that begins at approximately $249,000 for the base Zora configuration and approaches $310,000 fully specified. For 1,064 horsepower in a mid-engine American sports car built to this level of finish and this breadth of capability, that pricing is one of the most compelling performance value propositions currently available at any price point globally. The all-wheel drive system that the front electric motor enables gives the Zora a level of traction and dynamic capability that the rear-drive C8 variants cannot approach. And the torque vectoring between the four wheels is managed with a sophistication that makes the car feel both faster and more manageable than its output figure would suggest. The suspension is fully adaptive with magnetic ride control in its most advanced calibration yet, and the result is a car that can lap a circuit at a pace that would embarrass purpose-built track cars costing significantly more, and then cruise home on the highway in a ride quality that makes the return journey genuinely pleasant rather than physically demanding. The safety systems are comprehensive: forward collision mitigation, blind spot warning, rear cross-traffic detection, and a performance-aware stability system that modulates intervention based on selected driving mode. All present and all calibrated to enhance rather than diminish the driving experience. Who is the 2026 Corvette Zora for? It is for the driver who has followed the Corvette story for their entire life and always believed that one day it would arrive somewhere extraordinary. It is for the performance car enthusiast who understands that 1,064 horsepower in an all-wheel drive mid-engine American car at $249,000 represents something that the automotive world has genuinely never seen before. And it is for the person who wants to own a piece of history, because the Zora is not just the extreme Corvette ever built. It is the car that proves, definitively and without any remaining doubt, that the Corvette has become one of the greatest performance cars on the planet. Not one of the greatest American performance cars, one of the greatest performance cars, full stop. If this video gave you a new understanding of what the 2026 Corvette Zora represents, and why it matters as much as it does, hit that like button, because it makes a genuine difference to what we are able to continue covering here. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews so you are part of every conversation like this one going forward. And drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to know whether you believe the Zora is the most significant Corvette ever built, or whether something from the car's past still holds that title in your mind. Either way, we read every comment, and this is one conversation worth having. Let's start number 5, Plymouth Roadrunner. They buried Plymouth in 2001, quietly, without ceremony, without a farewell tour, without a single acknowledgement of what that name had meant to an entire generation of American performance car culture. 25 years of silence, and then, without warning, without rumor, without a single leak making it to the press, this happened. The 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner. And the number at the top of its performance specification is not a mistake. It is not a misprint. It is 100 horsepower. And when you understand what this car is built from and what it is built to do, that number stops being shocking and starts being inevitable. Stay with us, because there is something specific about the way this car was engineered, a decision made very early in the development process that separates it from every other muscle car revival that has been attempted in the last 2 decades. And that detail changes everything. Welcome to Premium Automotive Reviews, where we have spent years covering the vehicles that actually matter in the depth that they deserve. Not surface-level walkarounds, not spec sheet recitations. Real understanding of what a car means, what it costs, what it delivers, and whether it justifies the noise being made around it. We have seen revival attempts come and go. We have seen legendary names attached to vehicles that failed to honor those names. Today is not one of those days. Let us begin with the name itself, because you cannot understand what makes the 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner significant without understanding what the original represented. The Roadrunner, introduced in 1968, was Plymouth's answer to a question the American automotive market was asking loudly. Can we have serious performance at a price that does not require a second mortgage? The answer was yes, and it was emphatic. The Roadrunner became one of the defining muscle cars of the entire era, defined by its cartoon bird badge, its irreverent attitude toward the establishment, and an engine that communicated its intentions clearly and without apology the moment you turned the key. The 2026 Roadrunner takes that founding philosophy and scales it to the present moment. This is not a car trying to be expensive. It is a car trying to be extraordinary, and the distinction matters enormously in how you experience everything about it. The exterior of the 2026 Roadrunner is executed almost entirely in gloss black and carbon fiber, and the visual effect is something that has to be absorbed slowly because there is a great deal happening beneath what first appears to be a monochromatic surface. The body is finished in a deep gloss black that reflects its surroundings with an almost mirror-like quality, and against this the exposed carbon fiber panels. The hood, the grille surround, the front lower fascia, portions of the fender flares, the rear diffuser, and the rear deck lid spoiler create a texture and depth that gives the car an organic, layered appearance rather than the flat aggression of a purely painted surface. The front fascia is unmistakably descended from the original Roadrunner's wide, gaping face but evolved into something with genuine aerodynamic function and a visual intensity that no previous generation of this nameplate has approached. The headlight units are circular and stacked in pairs on each side, a clear reference to the classic Roadrunner quad lamp arrangement, but executed with modern LED projection technology that gives them a precision and brightness entirely appropriate to a 21st century performance car. Between them, the full-width grille mesh is framed in carbon fiber, and centered within it sits the Roadrunner bird emblem, rendered in chrome on a matte black background, flanked on either side by a horizontal amber LED light strip that runs the full width of the lower grille opening. That amber strip is one of the most distinctive lighting signatures in the current performance car landscape, and it is immediately recognizable as belonging to this car and no other. The carbon fiber hood rises in twin power dome forms, functional in their intake design and dramatic in their visual contribution to the overall front elevation of the car. The hood is not merely functional carbon fiber. It is exposed weave, lacquered and sealed, and the quality of the finish communicates that the people who built this car understood that the materials chosen for performance function must also meet a standard of visual quality worthy of the name they are attached to. From the side, the 2026 Roadrunner presents a wide, low, muscle coupe silhouette that carries the proportions of the original in its broad shoulders and short greenhouse, but pulls them into a contemporary form that sits far lower and wider than anything Plymouth ever produced. The side vents in the rear quarter panels are functional, managing heat from the rear braking system, and they are framed in gloss black that continues the visual language established across the rest of the body. The carbon fiber side skirts run the length of the rocker panel area, giving the car an extremely low visual center of gravity that makes it look planted even at a standstill. The large multi-spoke alloy wheels are finished in a dark gunmetal with machined face detailing, and the wheel centers carry the Roadrunner bird emblem, a detail that rewards the observer who looks closely enough to notice it. The rear of the 2026 Roadrunner is where the design makes its most powerful statement. The tail lamp units are wide horizontal ovals finished in amber LED, matching the front amber light signature in a design coherence that is immediately striking, and they sit within a carbon fiber panel that spans the full width of the rear. The Roadrunner bird emblem appears here too, centered between the tail lamps above the license plate, and the Roadrunner nameplate runs in clean lettering below it. The rear diffuser is a multi-element carbon fiber structure of considerable visual drama, and within it 4 exhaust outlets are arranged in a paired configuration on each side. This is the exhaust arrangement of a car that was built to make a sound as remarkable as its visual presence. The rear window louvers are a deliberate reference to classic American muscle car design heritage, executed in carbon fiber slats that run across the rear glass in a pattern that is both aerodynamically functional and visually spectacular. They are one of the defining details of this car's personality, and one of the elements that most clearly communicates the design team's understanding of where this vehicle comes from and where it is going simultaneously. Step inside the 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner, and the transformation from the exterior's dark aggression to the interior's focused precision is immediate and complete. The cabin is built almost entirely in carbon fiber. The dashboard facing, the door panels, the center console structure, the floor, all of it is wrapped in deep, rich carbon fiber weave of exceptional quality. Against this, the amber lighting runs in a continuous strip along the base of the dashboard and around the center console perimeter, precisely matching the exterior amber lighting signature and creating an interior atmosphere that is genuinely unlike anything else currently available in the American market. The steering wheel is a flat-bottom leather unit with the Roadrunner bird badge centered in chrome. It is the first thing your hands touch and the last thing you let go of, and it communicates the weight and seriousness of the car beneath it the moment you grip it. The instrument cluster is fully digital, displaying performance data, driving mode information, and vehicle status in a graphic layout calibrated for high-speed legibility. The central infotainment display is a wide horizontal unit set into the carbon fiber dashboard that greets the driver with the Roadrunner title on startup, displaying the bird emblem animated in amber against a black background. The passenger side of the dashboard carries a Roadrunner badge in machined metal lettering that sits within a carbon fiber panel. The kind of detail that confirms this is not a car assembled from shared parts bins, but one designed with specific intent at every surface. The technology ecosystem of the 2026 Roadrunner is comprehensive and current. Wireless connectivity, over-the-air software updates, full voice command integration, and an AI driving profile system that adapts throttle response, steering calibration, and transmission behavior to individual driver preferences over time are all present and fully operational. The performance data recording system captures telemetry and video simultaneously, allowing detailed review of every drive session. Multiple driving modes span from a manageable, socially acceptable daily driving configuration all the way through to an unrestricted performance mode that gives the driver full access to everything the powertrain is capable of delivering. And what the powertrain delivers is where this car truly defines itself. The 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner produces 100 horsepower from a supercharged American V8 paired with an electric front axle motor system that adds instant low-speed torque and all-wheel drive traction capability. The result is a car that launches with a violence that the original Roadrunner's 426 Hemi could only have dreamed of, manages that launch with a sophistication the 1960s never had access to, and then continues to accelerate through the mid-range and on toward its top speed in a manner that makes the experience feel unrelenting rather than sudden. The suspension is a fully adaptive electromagnetic system that modulates between genuine track-capable firmness and a highway comfort level that makes long-distance driving in this car a genuine pleasure rather than a physical commitment. Pricing for the 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner begins at $78,000 for the base supercharged configuration, with the fully equipped Roadrunner Black Carbon Edition approaching $99,000, positioning it as one of the most compelling performance values anywhere in the world at its output level. The safety and driver assistance suite is modern and thorough. Forward collision warning with automatic braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic detection, and a stability management system intelligent enough to distinguish between intentional driver inputs and unintended loss of control, even at elevated speeds. It is a system that protects without patronizing, which is exactly the balance that a car of this character demands. Who is the 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner for? It is for the driver who grew up knowing the name and never stopped believing that a muscle car could be more than what the market had been offering. It is for the enthusiast who wants 100 horsepower packaged in a design that carries genuine emotional weight. It is for the person who understands that the most powerful statement a performance car can make is not just the number on the dyno sheet. It is the sum of every decision made in its design, its engineering, and its identity. Plymouth did not just come back. It came back with a car that understands exactly what it is, where it comes from, and precisely where it is going. The 2026 Roadrunner is not a tribute to the original. It is the continuation of a conversation that was interrupted 25 years ago, and the new chapter is the most compelling one yet. If this video gave you a deeper understanding of what the 2026 Plymouth Roadrunner represents, and why it matters more than any muscle car revival in recent memory, hit that like button because it genuinely helps this channel continue covering the vehicles that deserve this level of attention. Subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews so you never miss a moment like this one. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us honestly whether you think Plymouth is truly back, or whether one car is not enough to settle that question. We read everything, and this conversation is one worth having.